Hello and welcome to Big Deal News. I'm Stuart and today I want to talk about the Justice League. As both a jaded cynic of a critic and a self-proclaimed guardian of DC lore as seen by my attire and Build-A-Bear, thank you Mackenzie, Justice League was absolutely perfect. As a standalone movie, one could admire its ability to stand on its own without requiring you to watch its plus 10 hours of prologue. I always hated that in the Avengers, nothing was actually set up in that film, aside from the Avengers Initiative, which had conveniently evolved from the format it held in previous MCU films. Think about how Nick Fury went straight to Iron Man after his movie, to creepily stalking the Hulk, to not even bothering with Thor. Which is understandable. Back in 2011 I wouldn't have given him the time of day either. But because of all this, by the time Avengers starts, all S.H.I.E.L.D. has is Captain 90-year-old virgin breaking gym equipment while he waits for the plot to start moving, which roughly takes an hour and a half. It's almost like Nick Fury had spent the last 4 years getting high, forgetting about his idea to make the Legion of Super Friends happen until, uh-oh, here's Loki, oopsie daisy, exit stage right.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Now compare that to Justice League, where it beautifully builds on the movies that came prior, while also establishing all the characters that are in this movie. I was blown away to see that all the characters were given arcs, to see exactly who they were. And sure, it would have been absolutely easy to just copy and paste the Batman we saw in Dawn of Justice, but I am so grateful that they instead showed us what Bruce would be like after Superman died. What would he be like after the guilt slowly consumed him? And the same amount of grace goes for Wonder Woman as well. I love that we have been able to see her journey from the naive princess to broken warrior and finally who she becomes in Justice League. The leader we need, but not the one we deserve. But it's not about deserve. It's about what you believe in, and I do believe that Justice League was better than Avengers, because Tony was the only character having anything but resembled an arc. No pun intended.
I understood that reference.
And even when he makes a sacrifice, he still survives, and that's only 1 out of 7 Avengers. It's just disappointing that even though they had more movies leading up to it, only one character had any sort of growth. Luckily, Zack Snyder has higher standards when it comes to filmmaking, and despite this being definitely the funniest of the DCEU movies, it still gave us fresh, meaningful, and deep takes on these decades-old characters, like Cyborg for instance. I loved the original Teen Titans series. The new one can rot in hell, but I loved the old one, and I can safely say that this representation of Cyborg is easily my favorite. Victor didn't ask to die in the fire explosion, and he most certainly didn't ask to be brought back, so his resentment towards his father for saving him and his longing for the past are so powerful and brilliantly portrayed by Ray Fisher. Equally as fresh and just as incredible was Ezra Miller as the Flash. I love seeing an outcast finding people he could relate to, which parallels nicely with the rest of the Justice League. Their ability to relate to one another is probably why their chemistry is so great, beyond the actors' individual talents. Funny enough, I still think Aquaman is the weakest member of the league, and that is despite all of Zack Snyder's efforts to make him awesome, which he did and he was, but Aquaman is still Aquaman. Honestly, I think the character is just cursed. A character definitely not cursed is Superman himself. His resurrection was handled so much more logically than Colin Firth was in Kingsman 2. You know, where they just put an icy hot band-aid on him and said, poof, there he is. I really sensed joy and relief in Clark's character throughout his scenes, which contrasted very nicely with Cyborg. And I don't care what anybody says, I thought Steppenwolf was a good villain with solid motivations. Ultimately, I ranked this above Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman because of slight hiccups in the plot and lame villains. But that being said, I don't think it was as good as Batman vs Superman or Man of Steel, not because there was anything wrong with Justice League, but you know, they had superior villains and scores. They were just phenomenal. And on that note, enjoy this clip of Henry Cavill cooking some eggs, and if you supported my totally biased DC defense, then please like and subscribe.